In this video, I want to give you a tip for structuring your Airtable bases. I know this is really helpful for me when I'm thinking about setting up my tables and my fields. Moving from spreadsheets to Airtable isn't always a one-to-one translation, and so you want to approach it slightly different. And in this video, we're going to talk about helper fields. Let's dive in. So helper fields are basically fields that you've added to your base, your tables, that help you do something else. So maybe they're like concatenating data together, maybe they're formatting a date, just something that you need to allow you to typically do an automation or a script or something in another cell. They're oftentimes formulas or roll-ups or counting fields or lookup fields, and they allow you to do other things with your base. Oftentimes you create a helper field and then you just hide it because you never really need to interact with it. You're not putting data into a helper field because it's automatically generating on its own. So you're typically not really even seeing it or interacting with it. And that is the big difference between a spreadsheet and Airtable. In a spreadsheet, I typically didn't want to just create a bunch of unnecessary columns because it was like a ton of scrolling, whether it was vertically or horizontally, or once columns were hidden, it was hard to figure out what was going on because there's all this hidden stuff. In an Airtable, go for it. Add as many fields as you want, create those helper fields because you can create different views. You can easily hide and show and group and sort. So you have all this flexibility with how you display your data that you don't really have in a spreadsheet. So that's where helper fields come in, because by creating additional fields that allow you to do other and perform other things with your base, it really unlocks the power of Airtable. So let's take a look at a few examples of helper fields that we can add to this base. So really quickly, I've got a simple base here. I have sales, salespeople, and offices where those salespeople work. Sales are linked to a salesperson, and a salesperson is linked to an office in a certain country. Now, one of the things that I might want to do is when a new sale is made, I might want to send an email to the customer. And I might want to send that email to the customer, thanking them for that sale. And depending on the country they're in, I might want to change the salutation. So if they're in America or the United States, maybe I say hello. If they're in Australia, maybe it's good day, or New Zealand, it's kia ora, or Mexico, hola, Canada, it's hi. So I've got different greetings per country. Now, how could I customize my email so that when I'm building that out, I have the greeting and the first person's name all on the salutation line? Now, I could put both variables in my email, or what I can do is I can build out that salutation line right in my sales table. So the way that would look is I could assign this. I think that this was Catherine in Mexico. She made this sale to Bee Sting. She sold a thingy-mabob for $500. So since I know that Catherine is tied to Mexico, I should be able to somehow get Ola to pull through to the sale. And the way that we can do that is by using some helper fields and kind of teasing that data through. So here with my office, I can add a lookup field that is the greeting. And now I have the greeting. Let's call it the country greeting. Now I have the country greeting in my salesperson, in my table with all the salespeople. Since it's in the table with all the salespeople, now I should be able to pull that through because now I can add another lookup field that is the country greeting. And so I can see that Ola has come through in my country greeting. And then if I want, I can add another field that's going to be the salutation line. And it's going to be a formula. And all I'm going to do is concatenate. So join different strings of text together. I'm going to have the country greeting with a space and then the first name. And so now, and actually what I want to do is I want to add let's add another comma after that. So now I have this salutation line that I can insert into an email, or maybe I'm creating a letter with a document automation. Check out Document Automation University on nocodeclab.com. But maybe I'm creating a letter or doing something else with this salutation line, and now I can send that to wherever I need it. So, and you'll see the nice thing is if I add another sale, another customer, let's say I add John Smith, and he bought a doohickey for $200 from Matt in New Zealand, we can see that our salutation line for John is automatically built out for us. And now we have that helper field that we're basically just going to hide whenever we are looking at our base. So we're just going to come in here. We're going to hide those two fields. And now that's being generated in the background and we're none the wiser, but we now have that at our disposal to do other things. So one of the things I did there that I didn't really call out was that I used helper fields to pull data through my base. So as you can see, sales are not tied to offices. Sales are tied to salespeople, and salespeople are tied to offices. So by adding a helper field on my salespeople table, where I pulled through the country greeting, that allowed me to then pull the country greeting through to sales. I will pretty much always just hide this country greeting. I'm never going to look at that, but it allows me to pull it through to a different table and get the data where I actually need it. Now, I could have created a new field here, called it office, linked to my offices, and then done it this way. And then I could have, created a lookup field there. That creates a few opportunities for error, and just kind of slows things down, because whoever is adding in the sales, now they have another field that they need to fill out, which means they might not fill it out. They might not know which office Catherine is in, or they might put in the wrong office. I could come in here and say that Catherine is in Canada. But if we actually look and we add our lookup field, we can see that Catherine is actually in Mexico. And so by linking to the office, what I've done is I'm basically storing that data in two places. I know that this is a Mexico sale because it's with Catherine, who's in Mexico. So I shouldn't really need to add the office as well. I can use a helper text to pull it all through. It's more efficient, and it is more likely to give you complete data and more error-free data. One of the things that helper fields are often used for is kind of crunching numbers, statistics, understanding what's going on in your base. So let's look at how we can apply that here. So similar how we brought and we teased information over from offices to sales, let's tease it back from sales to offices with a stop in the middle at salespeople, because we want to actually maybe generate a report on all of our salespeople. So in here, we're going to create a total sales, and that's going to be a roll up on my sales. And now what I can do with this, if I total up the price paid, now what I can do is I can use this maybe in a report, like I said, or an email, maybe some sort of a letter or Excel file that I'm creating with a document automation. And so I'm able to, I could maybe just hide this. I don't maybe ever need this field. And so that's how it kind of becomes a helper field. But let's say I do sales count. And I've totaled up my sales. Okay, so now this is great. I set up my automation and I fire off that report every month. It's generating in the background and it's great. So I'm just going to hide these and I never need to look at them again. But now to pull that through to offices, what I'm going to do is on my salespeople, I'm going to add lookup fields. And let's add, actually, let's cancel that. Let's do a roll up because I want a total. I'm going to insert a field right. Let's do the same thing, total sales. So I'm going to go roll up, salespeople, and the thing that I care about is total sales. So I want to sum the total sales of everyone in my offices. So now we can see that Mexico has total sales of $700. If I come back here though, let's say I move Sarah, she's going to be in Mexico as well. And now let's add a new Sally Johnson. She bought a widget for $300, and that was Sarah, I believe I said it was. So now we can see this is all going to pull through to Mexico, because now I can see that Mexico has generated $1,000. The only way I was able to get that there though was to pull it through the salespeople. Sarah, if I unhide these, Sarah on her monthly correspondence, she's going to have $300 and one sale, whereas Catherine is going to have $700. So what we're doing, and the important thing to realize here is what we're doing is we're kind of creating a lot of fields just to pass data around, to get things in the right format so that we can use it elsewhere. And in Excel, that's something that would just kind of clutter up your spreadsheet. But in Airtable, when you can start to kind of realize that you can have as many fields, as many views as you want, it starts to unlock the power and you can really move this data around your base as much as you need. Hopefully this way of thinking about your bases and how to set up your tables is helpful. I know it was for me. Once I realized that I could have kind of as many fields as I wanted, even just to move data around my base, it really unlocked things for me, and I was able to get a lot more out of the data that I had in my bases. So if you thought that this was helpful, please like this video, subscribe to our channel, and we will see you at the next tutorial.